Yeah, I
Yeah, I
know.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's reasonable. So are you gonna keep this like unlisted? All right, cool. Let's argue about my Infinity War video.
I mean, it's a
I
nice
like the title.
Yep, we are.
All right, so um, before we get into this, let's just clarify our positions. So I'll do mine first because me, LD, Inferno, and Thunderstruck, we all have our disagreements in some areas. So we're each gonna clarify ours. So um, so I don't think it's a bad recreation. I think for the most part, it looks pretty good. Um, the main issues that I had were really the inconsistent stones. I didn't like the clay at the end. I think if you like kept it at clay the whole time and then you had a glowy effect, I think it would have looked better. Um, what else? Animation for like 40%. It looked a little bit rushed. I didn't like the Peter Head thing. And I think at the ending, with the Spider-Man shot, I think it looked pretty good. I really liked it. Although I wish there was more detail, but that's just a little bit of a nitpick I had. Um, and I'll talk about what I did like. I like the Iron Man and Star-Lord interaction on Titan. Iron Man chasing that donut ship, the mouth movement, some of the visual effects. Um, yeah. So what do you, Inferno? What do you have to say about it? Like your 1 out of 10 thing.
Oh, well, it's literally like that was a bit of an over exaggeration. It's like I'd say around 5 out of 10 because it did have its pros, it did have its cons.
You were like messing
Yeah,
All right.
Christ, there's a lot of people in the chat. Didn't think that this would get many views, to be honest.
So, is that all you have to say then? You have pros and cons. Anything new? Just pretty much piggybacking off of what Sushi King said.
You know what? I'll just say them. Most of the green screen was quite good. The Iron Man Star-Lord trap was quite good as well.
Thank you.
The mouth movement was quite good as well. The animation was a bit choppy and looked quite rushed. The Peter taking his head off when he put the Spider mask on. I get that was like a joke, but it made me like the only way it made me laugh was because of like how stupid it was.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Al, did you have anything to say?
Well, you and Sushi pretty much covered all I was gonna say. So.
Are you sure there's not anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that being said,
well, didn't you not like the Deadpool cameo?
Oh yeah, the Deadpool coming.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it does kind of break the recreation feel, but it's not like a huge deal for me because it's like for like a few frames.
Yeah. I mean, other people have done stuff like that, but I mean, I can see why you have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we covered all that.
Does Thunderstruck have anything to say?
No, that pretty much covered what I was.
Thunderstruck he's just here for clout.
Gotcha.
Not though, but okay.
Wait, yeah. Oh. Shit, my headphones fell off.
Okay. So,
okay.
A reoccurring theme, at least with some of these criticisms, that lead me to call them at least partially invalid, is that this whole idea of these little jokes or nods or references or something like that taking you out of the experience that is the video, I guess. So let me preface to say that, as I mentioned in the comments, that the point of those references is not to have you laugh out loud, right? And I know Sushi said this was a straw man because he thought I was attacking a, a point being that, like, if it's not funny, then or if I don't think it's funny, then whatever. But point being that the point of those is not to make you laugh out loud or to have any reaction at all. The point of those is to have a reaction of, oh, that's that, and I just thought it was a little funny while making it. That's the point of having Deadpool in there, which I think is absolutely is probably the most innocuous of these inclusions, because he is a part of the Marvel universe, and that is absolutely the kind of thing that would be within Deadpool's character to appear in in some kind of cameo form like that. All right, and he was blurred out in the background in 2 shots or 3 shots, and that was the end of that. Moving up from there, we have something like that nobody here really complained about, but the cat for Wakanda, which is another kind of funny joke, I guess, instead of the panther in front of that big panning shot. And I don't hear any complaints about that one from you guys, so I'm assuming you're fine with it. The stormtroopers in the background of Thanos's shot, as his little minions in place of the Chitauri. Haven't heard any complaints about that either, so I'm assuming that's fine as well. So the main 2 that we're talking about are Peter taking his head off, and then the other one, well, yeah, that one's pretty much it in terms of this section of complaints or criticism. So,
all right. So, sorry.
Sure. No, go ahead.
So you said the whole thing with the. Let me go back to make sure. Okay. So, right, the Spider-Man taking off his head, that criticism you thought was invalid, right? Just to clarify.
Overall, yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna explain it. So yes, I get what you were doing. Like, you were trying to make it like a nod, like this is
Right.
still toys. But then again, this kind of breaks the feel that this is a recreation. It really it just breaks that feel. You know what I mean?
Well, in defense of that, I'd say that a lot of brick filmers take themselves too seriously, and take brick films too seriously, especially like superhero parodies, when essentially what a lot of us are doing is just fanfic, right? We make our own little stories in these superhero universes, making brick films, whether they be action oriented or comedy oriented or whatever. I think a lot of brick filmers need to realize that at the end of the day, yes, we are still playing with toys, and yet I see that you acknowledge that, and I think ultimately there is a cap of seriousness for the kind of videos that we're making. Like, in the grand scheme of film, all right, we are the kind of stuff we do is, like I said, it's just fanfic, right? It's fanfic with an aspect of animation, and the animation itself is probably the single most probably the single most admirable, I guess, or even recognizable point of doing brick films, right? The fact that so much time and effort goes into them, but a lot of time and effort went into some, like the Sonichu series, if you're familiar with that, and it's garbage, right? So what I'm trying to get at with that point is that, like I said, a lot of I think there is a cap to seriousness that you can get with these little films. There are certainly brick films out there that I think do deserve that kind of respect. stuff that's perhaps more original. And it's funny because I used to have the stance that people who thought, original brick films were inherently better than like superhero brick films or Star Wars brick films were, had to stick up their ass or something like that. But as I've progressed over the years, I find myself agreeing with that stance more and more because inherently with having an original property, I understand I'm going on a huge tangent here, but inherently with going on this with an original property, you create everything from the ground up. So inherently, there's more respect in that field. So when you're doing the kind of stuff that we are, I don't think you can take it that seriously. Even if it is something like a recreation where the goal is typically accuracy, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And the whole point of what is the point of criticism anyway, right? The whole point of criticism is either for the most part it's to criticize the work of the creator so that they can avoid mistakes in the future and ultimately perfect their craft and improve their craft. Let me pause this for a second so I can actually get some buffering. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, the point of criticism is to is for the creator. It's from someone on the outside, so to tell the creator something, to give insight that the creator doesn't necessarily have to their work, a different perspective or a different aspect of it may be, or a different aspect of production where that creator didn't see themselves. And so the entire that is achieved in some sense with pointing out the head switch thing, which in the sense that I didn't think anybody would care about that. I thought the vast majority of people would be fine with it. But clearly there's at least, I haven't done any polls on this or anything, but there is at the very least a vocal minority, or not a vocal minority, but a minority that didn't appreciate that or didn't get it, as I've seen in a few comments. Like, why did you do that, or something like that. But even still, the intent of that, like the point of art, I guess, if you want to be broad with this, or this kind of, entertainment or whatever, is ultimately to, oh shit, I lost my point. Anyway, so at the end of the day, it's, I don't think, you can be as serious, even if it is this kind of whatever, this going for accuracy. There is a limit to how much you can do that with the kind of brick films that these are, and I think doing this kind of stuff is ultimately totally harmless and really just sets you apart from the rest of the people who've done. Because how many people have done this trailer, right? It's the biggest Marvel movie in 10 years, and
Right.
and I did a quick YouTube search the other day, and there were at least like 5 or 6 other people doing it, and I put mine out 4 months later. So to differentiate myself, I don't know, I just sprinkle in some stupid stuff that I thought was, that might get not even a chuckle, just like an exhaling of breath from your nose, like, yeah, I understood that, from people, So that's the point of all that, with regards to Peter taking his head off, at least from the perspective of it breaks the immersion or whatever. And I don't know how immersive you can, get with a trailer like this, but if you have anything to respond with, go for it.
Oh, your mic lagged a little bit. Could you repeat that?
That last part?
Yeah.
I forgot what I just said. I mean, when did you stop hearing? What was the last thing you heard me
It was
say?
like 20 seconds ago or something. It just kept going in and out, like glitching.
Okay. Well, in that case, do you remember the last thing I said though?
I think it was about that you said with the something about like you wanted to differentiate.
Right.
Uh,
Okay. So, like I said, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but there's five. You look on YouTube for this trailer alone. I mean, of course, pretty much any trailer, there's going to be at least like 4 or 5, well known. Any big Marvel trailer, there's going to be 4 or 5 well known, videos about it that are of a good quality. And so, to differentiate yourself, and for this Infinity War, of course, it's the biggest Marvel movie in 10 years, and so you're gonna get even more people doing it, and of course I'm putting mine out 3 months late. So it's just having these dumb little nods, not even where people laugh, just where people exhale a little bit of air from their nose, uh, as like an "oh, I get it" or something like that. And some people do laugh, right? But that's not the goal. Uh, just to have that little sprinkle of personality and self-awareness, I think, is something that I have that puts me apart from the rest. When there are people that are technically superior in either animation or visual effects than I am. So that's just, I mean, ultimately, I think it's harmless, and it doesn't really do any harm at all. And to break the immersion, it doesn't do any harm to break the immersion of the video, and I don't know how immersive you can get with a trailer, with a video like this in the first place, right? So, if you have anything to say to that, go for it.
all right, so I think you explained your reasoning for doing it pretty well, but that still doesn't change my opinion that I don't like the fact that he takes the head off, and it still just breaks the recreation feel. And I get you're trying to make it like self-aware, like, oh, these are toys we're playing with, um, and I just I just still think it breaks the recreation feel.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else you guys have to say?
Well, as you said, like the recreation, like you're trying to strive for accuracy, but I mean, like the self-awareness wasn't really needed. Well, that's like in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't needed, but I chose to put it there because I thought it would be fun to do in while animating it on live streams. I have old live streams. I have the live stream where I did that clip, and I can show you the clip where I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be fun if I did this?"
Oh yeah, I remember that. I think I was there.
Now, I don't want to cut you off, but there is a second aspect of this that we could talk about where it's doing the head switch instead of like doing an effect. But anyway, so continue your point if you have any
Okay,
more.
so I get what you were going for. I simply didn't like it. I simply didn't like the fact that it breaks the recreation feel. Now, let's say this was like a comedy brick film or something. Um, I wouldn't mind it like in that sense, or if it was like a parody. Um, but this is a recreation, and I guess what I'm looking for in a recreation is mostly just accuracy. And looks like we're not going to find agreement on this, which is fine. Um, you guys can disagree with me. I don't really care. Um, recreation feel. What the fuck is that? Well, I'll explain to you what a recreation feel is. It feels like it's a recreation of the Infinity War trailer. So, what else is he saying?
So you want, when you're looking at a recreation, you want immersion into what it is. You want to believe that it's the same thing but in a different medium. Is that what you're trying to get out of?
I lost you there. What was you saying?
So with a recreation, what are you trying to get out of it, right? You say
Okay, so
recreation feel, but is that
what I'm
just
mostly trying to get out of it is a somewhat accurate feel. I'd like it to be like if there's some inaccuracies, like not using the official figures, I don't really care about that. I know people were saying that in the chat, which isn't true. Um, and also, I don't mind if some of the uh, some of the characters look a little bit different. Like Peter Parker hair, it doesn't look very accurate to the actual one from Infinity War. Like, there's a more accurate look you could have went with, but I don't really care about it. And but just like taking his head off, it's like, since it doesn't happen in the trailer, I just don't like it.
Okay. Well, here's the thing about translation of mediums, right? I know this isn't directly applicable, but whenever you're translating a story or anything from one medium to another, be that from a book to a movie or a comic to a movie, or a comic to a show, or a movie to a book or whatever, there are differences in each medium that are unique to that medium, in that they are differences in the medium in the sense, well, each medium has its strengths and weaknesses, right? So with that being said, when you write a book, of course you're not going to be able to capture every single word on screen, because you don't spend you have 5 minutes that are allowed by the director, whereas you can read in a book, you could read that at your own pace. And these differences exist between animation and live action as well. And in that same vein, having these differences, set it apart. I think having this argument that you're looking for the exact same thing but in Lego is like the same argument of having, like, if a movie or something is adapting a comic book, you want, I want a 100%, I want it to be exactly the same as the comic book, or else then what's the point if it's not the exact same thing? Well, the point is that each medium has strengths and differences, right? So if you're just looking for the exact same thing, then just watch the original trailer. There's no point to watch my trailer aside from the fact that there's the novelty of it being the same thing. So you understand where I'm coming from here, right? Like, there's no point. I don't think there's any point in being exactly the same, even and having these little quirks. That's probably the best word to describe them. Having these little quirks is exactly the kind of stuff that differentiates it and makes it unique for the thing that it is, right? Pointing out that these are toys, and pointing out that because the entire appeal of a recreation in Lego is it's just novelty, right? It's novelty mainly for people who aren't into Legos, because when you have these videos that are 3 or 4 million views that are recreations, they get shared on Facebook, and they're just seen by a bunch of, by mostly adults that don't play with Lego all the time or whatever. So the appeal is simple novelty of these toys doing of this popular thing, but it's with toys, and the quirks that those toys have that bring with them. And by pointing those quirks, that ultimately leads into this whole idea of, that's the point, right? If you just want the same thing, then just watch the regular trailer. There's a reason, there's a purpose for it being in Lego, and that's because it's Lego, So, anyway, like you said, I don't think we're gonna come together on this point. But if
right,
you have
see where you're coming from.
Sure, if you want to respond.
I don't think because you mentioned earlier about with the comics and movies, like saying, oh, it's not exactly accurate to the comics, or not exactly accurate to a book. So going back to that, I think that's different, because I don't really care in that sense, but this is literally a recreation. And I get what you're saying, like, you want it to differentiate, and you don't want it to be the same as the trailer. Well, it's not really the same as the trailer, because it's already in Lego.
Right, it's Lego, that's the point. And having these quirks point out that it's Lego even more. So that just furthers,
But I don't
the
think
purpose.
it was necessary, in my opinion.
All right, well, at this point we're going in circles, so.
All right, so we'll just agree to disagree.
Sure.
Let's go to the next point.
And sorry, let me just cut in for a second and say that like I was saying this earlier, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself again, but the point of criticism is to point something out to the creator, so that that they didn't see themselves necessarily, um, so that they can improve. So the reason I call that specific point invalid is because I recognize what you didn't. I recognize what I did with the clip and what the intentions were of the clip, and I'm standing by that even after hearing your argument. I just don't. To me, it doesn't matter, right? So ultimately, that's not going to get me to change anything. So that's why it's pretty much it basically goes nowhere. You know, I guess it does help me in the sense that I know that there are people like you out there that have these opinions. So that's why I call it invalid. So continue on the next point.
Sure. Okay. So, you said that under invalid, stones are ugly, and you put in parentheses, I disagree. So, did you want to expand on why it's invalid, or is it just because you disagree?
Well, I see your points. One of the genuine points of criticism that you do have is that the stones are inconsistent. And I did see that before. It didn't bother me, but seeing other people point it out does bother me now, right? So that is an active point. That's a separate point. But uh, about the stones being ugly, I think they look serviceable. I don't think they look ugly. I just don't think they look good, right? I could have added a an effect or something, but I didn't feel like it because I think it was serviceable, and I think it works, and I stand by that claim. Um, at least the clay stuff. And so, it's not flashy, but I think it serves the purpose. So the reason that criticism is invalid is, again, going back to that idea of that comes down to in its basic principle, that point comes down to aesthetic preferences. I think it looks good, or it looks okay, or it looks good enough. You don't. You're not, and I heard I understand why you might not think it looks good, but that doesn't sway my opinion at all. And so I'm not going to do anything about it, or do anything about that in the future. And so there's, like I said, it just goes nowhere. So that's why it doesn't do anything.
All right. So,
See if you can just interject.
sure, yeah.
As you said before, like you could do an effect, but you didn't want you. Isn't that a bit lazy on your behalf?
Yeah.
So like,
I could have done an effect. I did do an effect, at least partially for that first clip with a kind of glow. But I didn't want to do it for the second one. The reason I didn't do it is because for practicality purposes. The reason I didn't carry the stones from that first shot earlier to the later shots with Cap, putting the actual Infinity Stones on there. The reason I didn't carry that over is because it would be a pain in the ass. It was already a pain in the ass when I was animating the first clip, because the stones kept falling out. And unless I wanted a giant mound of clay on there, more clay than there would be stone, then having to animate those last few clips where Thanos is moving around would have been worse, right? And I didn't think it would be worth my time. So that's why I did that. Yeah. Yeah, I ultimately it was for practicality purposes. In the same manner that I don't know whether this reference is going to reach you, but the Pokemon cartoon for the last 20 years has looked exactly the same. And then in the past year, they changed the style completely to be a lot more simplistic, and it's just so that things would be easier to animate ultimately, and so that you could have more variety for expression. That's not necessarily what I did here, but it is in that similar vein of dumbing it down for the ease of animation's sake, and it's not like I was just avoiding frustration. Ultimately, is what the point of that was. So
Okay.
I guess yeah, sure, I was being lazy.
Before I get into that point, I'm just gonna throw something out there for the people watching right now. A lot of you guys in the comments seem to be misunderstanding what we're actually saying. So, um, what people are saying, we're not saying that this is a sucky recreation. We didn't say that at all. I actually liked it for the most part. Um, and Are people seriously complaining that Alex's video isn't entertaining enough for them? No, we're just giving things that we're giving our opinions on stuff that we didn't like in a civil manner. So I just wanted to put that out there. And back to the Stones thing. So
Sure.
um, what was I saying? I just had a brain fart. Hold up. Oh yeah, the Stones. So you acknowledged that it was valid when I said that it was inconsistent. So I think that's fair. Um, and I like that what in your response to the Stones thing, you were able to acknowledge that you did have some faults in that, and able to civil manner. So I appreciate that. The Stones. So in my opinion, I think it would have been better if you just kept it at the clay the whole time, and for the sake of having it easier to animate, because I remember you mentioned that, and you could have added like a glowing effect. Let's see, Motion Movie saying at Lego Sushi King Productions, you're just nitpicking badly. Okay.
Don't look at the chat. It's just gonna distract you. I'm not
All
looking
right.
at the chat at all. Just let them
All
say
right.
whatever they want. If they misconstrue your points,
I'll
then
just respond
whatever.
later.
Right.
So
Just respond in the
yeah,
comments.
I think it would have been better because for the sake of making it easier to animate, you put the clay there, then you add a glowy effect. And I've seen you do it in the Thor Ragnarok trailer. Um, and So that basically covers the Stones. Unless you guys have something to say. Nah.
Yeah, I think we've covered that point.
Okay. So next, and I think the reason that I was pretty disappointed by it was better than this one in my opinion.
I'm sorry. Repeat yourself. You cut out.
Okay. So what I was saying is that the Thor Ragnarok trailer, I think it looked than uh than your Infinity War trailer, and I think that's part of where my disappointment comes from. Um, so yeah. Anything else you guys have to say?
Yeah, I agree with your point. Maybe the Infinity War trailer should have been better since it was like a bigger and better event.
Right, um, and so people don't misconstrue this. We're not saying this because like we hate Lone Clone or whatever, or we hate his channel, or we want him to fail. Um, we're saying this because we think there's areas that could have been better, and I think he did a pretty good job explaining your points in a civil manner. Um, so, crap, what was I saying?
I mean, in defense of, I guess, or rather, in response to people being disappointed, I never hyped up this video, right? And I understand if you're comparing it to my previous works. I haven't watched the Thor video in a while, so I don't know. I don't really know how it stacks up. I believe the effects in this video were better in general, but perhaps maybe there weren't that many. The problem with this video is that there just wasn't a lot of opportunities for animation. The vast majority of this video, of the Infinity War video, is stills. Or maybe not the vast majority, but probably the majority of time on screen is are stills, whether that be from compositing or whatever. So I didn't actually get to animate as much in this video, and when I did, I kind of dropped the ball, understandably, with some mistiming of some points, of some clips. But in terms of like people hyping up this video and being disappointed, I mean, I can understand if you're comparing it to my previous works, maybe you don't like it. I haven't seen the Thor video, so I can't really comment on that. Or I haven't seen it in a while, rather. I can't really remember it too well. But if people were hyping it up because I spent 4 months on it, or it was a bigger event, I don't know what to say, man. I never hyped up the video. The only advertising I did for the video really was whenever I did a live stream, and even then I wasn't hyping it up. I was just working on it. And then I had a post like 2 days before saying, "All right, it's out for patrons," you know. So it's coming out for the rest of you guys soon. So in terms of people being disappointed for those reasons, I don't know what to say. And as a little aside, just because somebody spends a long amount of time on something, or a project is made over a long period of time, doesn't mean that it's going to be a better project in general. Like, people have this expectation that, oh, you spend
Right.
X amount of time on something, it must be incredible if you spent so long on it. Well, the fact of the matter is, I didn't probably spend more time on this video than any of my other previous recreations. It was just I was doing stuff, and there were more periods of time where I took a break for like a week or two between, because either it was the end of the school year, or I was going to LA for a week, or whatever, what have you. So in that sense of the word, it's kind of like a toxic hype cycle. Like, for example, right? Avatar, the first Avatar movie came out in like 2009 or something like that. Avatar 2 and 3 have been slated to happen for like the past 10 years. And so whenever Avatar 2 eventually does come out, I think it's slated for like 2021 now. It was originally slated for 2015, but I think it's now 2021. Whenever that movie comes out, so many people are going to be disappointed because they think, oh, you had 10 years to think of an idea, and you didn't do, and you didn't, and this is what we got. Well, no, in reality, they spent, probably the normal amount of time developing a movie like that, and then just during those 10 years, they were doing something else, right? It's just, the reason it took so long, it just wasn't a tight production cycle, especially after that, after the movie came out, and after that first week or two, then I'm like, well, I could just, there's no rush at this point. So since the hype cycles died down, luckily enough, I released it right after the Blu-ray came out, so maybe I'll get a bit of residual hype, but either way, that's what I have to say about that, I guess.
So,
hype.
what I have to say is, personally, I wasn't really like hyped for it. Like, not to say that I wasn't looking forward to it. It's just not like if I see it in my sub box, I'm like, oh, never clicked so fast in my life, or something like that.
Well, okay. When I say hype, I mean expectations. When people expect something highly or not. Continue.
All right. So, as I was saying, okay, so thought you meant something else right there. And back to what I said, I was talking earlier about something, then I forgot what I was saying. I just remembered it. So I don't have a problem with you guys liking it. I don't know why people think that. Yeah, if you like it, it's fine. We can talk about your disagreements. You're allowed to state your opinion. There's nothing wrong with it. And not only that, I think a lot of the hostility, verbal hostility in the chat, is coming from the fact that you're one of the greatest animators in the whole brick film community, and I agree with that. And I think
thanks.
Because of that, they're getting really angry about the fact that you're getting criticized. And I'm not saying that you're like this, but and this isn't just happening with you; it happens with a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I guess to that, I mean, whenever people say I'm one of the greatest animators, I always say no, I'm not, because I'm not. And if people set up those expectations for me I don't know what to say. I know you weren't placing any blame on me, but that's just that is the nature of fandom, I guess. As much as I hate the idea that I have fans, or anything like that. Not that I don't appreciate them, I just don't like the idea of people enjoying my stuff that much. When clearly I am a very self-critical person. So especially with my work here. So I mean, to that point, sorry, I guess for my audience, I don't really have anything to say about it. Anything else?
Okay. Let's see. Okay, let me go down the list. Oh yeah. So I know it's a nitpick that LD pointed out, but I'm gonna go over it anyways. So when LD pointed out um the Black Panther with the backwards cap thing, you responded saying that sorry, I don't care about Black Panther, thus never animated with the character. The ear cap on the minifigure looked dumb anyway. So what message were you trying to get across with that?
I was illustrating the point that I care so little that I don't care about that point.
So, I mean, if you wanted to do that, I would have just ignored it. But,
Well,
anyways,
okay, yeah, I guess that probably would have been a better thing to do, but I was going through it point by point, so those were my thoughts on the point.
Okay. So, is there anything that you wanted to talk to us about? Like if you had a problem with something we said, or if you wanted to just have a conversation about something else that we said.
You guys should invite me to this so I could. Sorry, I was reading the chat. As to anything problems with anything else you say, look, the reason I responded to LD's original comments with as much force as I did, I guess. So I was very tired with this project towards the end of it. Obviously, I mentioned before, ad nauseum that I spent 4 months on it, a lot of time, a lot of frames, a lot of editing time as well, and probably a lot of editing time, especially doubly since I was A, learning Premiere, and B, there's so much compositing in this video. So understandably, I think I was a little irritated when after putting out this video, being done with it, being done with everything, LD's response was as curt as it was, or as it wasn't as worded as not that it was negative. I didn't really mind that it was negative. It was just it seemed to be making most of it was about stuff, and it was worded in such a way that was very simple, very to the point, without adding much explanation, leaving a lot of room for interpretation with the comment. And I read every comment. I don't get a lot of comments, so of course I read every single one. And so just the way that it was worded as abruptly as it was, of course, that was irritating when you gave criticism like that to stuff that I found mostly had no weight, and it didn't seem like a very well structured response as far as the criticism goes. And so I mean, yeah, and of course from there, after that it just becomes an escalation of events, right? I respond, someone else respond, or Sushi responds with 4 paragraphs, I respond with 5 paragraphs, so on and so forth. So and you ask like why do you asked, like, why do you keep going on if you don't care this much? Well, it's because I was irritated. So clearly I did care at least somewhat. I didn't care about the opinion so much in that I'm taking it to heart. But I did care about the seeming, the misinformation that was going on, or the fact that that no one would budge on anything because you just keep uh, you know going off of different points or whatever. But anyway, so that's that, I guess. Yeah.
All right. So the Lego director said he had some other opinions to talk about, so I just added him in case he wanted to get on.
Sure. Yeah, if he wants to hop in, why not?
LD, do you have any other issues? Because I know you mentioned an issue about something about like the Iron Man torso. Did you want to get it more into that?
Not really.
Oh, okay, because I personally didn't have much of a problem with it.
Wait, who are we inviting?
We're inviting people that have different opinions or like disagree.
I'm back. I got kicked out of the call. Hello.
Yeah.
So, what now?
We'll that have some things to say to us. So I'm waiting.
What now?
Hi.
Let's hope no one throws around any insults, eh?
Yeah, I mean, Lone Clone was
What?
he was pretty
This is your second. This
civil
is my
despite
second channel.
how heated it got when he started talking about how tight my ass was. No, I'm kidding.
Gay.
But yeah, we had a pretty civil discussion.
So
I
is the
doubt
stream
most of
over
it
now?
is gonna be pretty civil, but we'll see.
So is the stream over now? Well,
I don't know. Apparently, they said they want to get it. Motion movies. I added you and Lego director, so you can like get on.
Oh God.
Christ, why do people want John so much?
I think they have some other points that they'd like to bring.
Let's get match 84 on control.
Oh, oh yeah, I forgot. There was this one thing I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
So you, uh, so I noticed you went on LD's video, and you said the head looks bad and it makes me cringe or something.
Yeah, because that was the exact same comment he gave to me about Oh, I forgot what point it was about.
It was about like the Iron Man thing, I think.
Oh, was it about that? It was.
It was the torso, like he said.
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
Falcon
It's so
torso or something.
like the torso, like the ripped up Falcon torso looks so bad it made me cringe, and so I thought that was kind of funny, and so I went on his video, and I'm like, I wonder what he's got, and then and so yeah, that was definitely immature. But I don't know. I just in the moment, of course, you're like, oh well, let's get a taste of his own medicine. Am I right, guys? Did you delete that comment? I can't find it.
I don't know. LD told me you deleted it.
Maybe I did.
Oh, hello, motion movies.
All right,
Either
motion
way,
movies. What do you got to say?
so that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
Give me a second.
Bit of a meme.
Wait, how do I turn my webcam off?
Just hit the camera thing.
Thanks. Oh, there we go.
Motion movies. You saying anything?
Oh yeah, sorry, I've got the other video, the live stream running in the background. Anyway, the main reason I disagree with you guys is because your opinions kind of just, as opposed to you making an argument giving evidence and then concluding the argument, like PEE or whatever, or Peter. You just kind of make your point and then repeat it again, but then don't give reasoning.
Even though I did you listen at all?
Yeah. I was
Okay,
listening the
so
whole
then why
time.
didn't we? Why didn't we like the Stones then?
Didn't like the Stones because you thought they were inconsistent. But you didn't say why inconsistency was bad.
Because it's a recreation, and you're recreating a trailer, and the Stones, like, it goes from this official Lego stone to like being a clay stone. It's
And it also takes away quality
yes,
from the recreation.
I didn't even
I've made
notice
that
it the first time I
crystal
watched
clear.
the video.
What?
I didn't notice it, nor did I notice the Deadpool cameo.
Okay, well, we weren't talking about the Deadpool cameo.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have much of a problem with it, although I think LD and Inferno said that they didn't really like it.
Okay.
Phantom
Lego
Army,
Director,
Deadly
you're
Evil.
in
Okay.
the chat, by the way.
So what other arguments do you have?
What are my arguments? I'm not arguing anything. My only point is that you guys tend to not formulate what you're saying. Like, for example, crap, I can't even remember now because it was so long ago. Why did you dislike the video again? Sorry, just remind me.
We didn't dislike the video. We've made that crystal
No,
clear.
I know what you mean. Just you understand my question, correct?
So, like, what our critiques are of the video.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go over mine, and then they'll go over theirs. So, for one,
Mine are pretty much the same as you.
most of the green screen look pretty decent, although sometimes it's like kind of see-through, like you can see through the background of it. I also said that around like 40, almost half the animation was a bit choppy and looked a little bit rushed. We didn't like the fact that Peter took his head off. We didn't like the fact that the stones were inconsistent, and we think the clay without the effect looked kind of ugly.
In relation to your point about the head, did you ever play the old Lego Star Wars games?
Yeah, I played those games.
What were those games about?
They were about the original movies.
Did they ever take artistic license with the original movie?
Wait, what?
Did they ever take artistic license with the original movie?
Well, yeah, because there's no dialogue.
Yeah, but do you think that that means they can't illustrate the basic premise of the movie?
What'd you say, Inferno coughed?
Do you think that because there's no dialogue, they can't get across their point? Oh, Jesus, what am I saying? Sorry. Do you think that because they don't have dialogue, they can't tell you the basic story of the original trilogy?
No, I do not believe that.
Do you also think that in a way they're trying to recreate the Star Wars experience?
Yeah, somewhat.
However, in that, do they not remove heads and hats or hair, etc.? Like when you go up to the hat machine and pull on the lever.
I don't actually remember that because I've played that when I was the last time I played that I was 10, I think.
Oh.
That's the entire conceit of the Lego games, though, is that it's at least somewhat what I was talking about, where they're trying to recreate the general experience, but the minutia of it, because it is still Lego, they still, like, every time someone dies in a Lego game, right?
They split into coins.
Yeah, they split into coins, and then like all the pieces fall off, or like whenever you hit C-3PO in the Lego games, like his arm would fall off, it would pop off, and then his head would pop off, then a leg would pop off. You know, it's stuff like that. So I think that's a good point he brings up, because that is pretty much the same thing, I think, or at least a similar enough thing to where it's worth bringing up, where it's fine with that experience, I guess, but with this experience, it's not.
I just,
but I think here's why I think it's fine in a game and not in a recreation. A recreation is supposed to be like a frame-by-frame recreation of a trailer that's made, and the video game, it's like you're playing it. So, I think it's better in the video game because it's like you're actually playing it, and you actually feel like you're playing as a Lego character. And what else? And in the video game, it's not supposed to be a recreation in Lego.
See what you mean, but I just figured that's what he was trying to convey.
No, I know that. I got that. And I get his reasoning. I just didn't like how it turned out.
I remember when I saw it.
I understand your reasoning, Sushi, but I think it's a good what's the word, like a parody or his own style to the trailer. So
That's fine.
you know,
That's fine.
'Cause lots of people have made this trailer, but they're all recreating the exact
yeah,
same
exactly,
thing.
exactly.
So he wanted his to be slightly different as opposed to a cookie cutter video. Like do you remember when Star Wars: The Force Awakens trailer came out?
Yeah.
Do you remember how everyone and their mum recreated it? Every person that had made a video recreating a trailer and put it into one video and sync them up. And every video was almost exactly the same with no differentiation.
Oh my god, yeah.
However, if you were to do it with this, you'd at least see that in this version he takes off his head.
Okay.
The main
Okay,
like one of the inspirations I got for doing that kind of stuff is like I saw there are these videos of like TV show openings, but people will recreate them in MS Paint. And so what they'll do is they'll change up like a clip or two, you know, for the fun of it, so that they can you know, have that little bit of differentiation to whatever. Anyway, I just be repeating myself anyway, so continue with any points you have.
Motion movies? Yeah. Oh, he left.
Well, I want to make the point of why, because Nick for Rad Visuals asked why your guys' comments were being taken so seriously. It was an initial irritation with what I believe to be a poorly worded first comment, and then I responded to that with a comment, and then, like I said, it's just a war of escalation where it just kept going and going. Incrementally, it got to a bigger and bigger enough point where I said, well, at this point, because this is what a YouTuber I watch, his name is Digibro. He gets a lot of you know, people that dislike him for whatever reason. So he says, fuck it, I'm just gonna have a live stream every week where if anyone wants to come on, then they can. Because obviously, most, you know, it's easy to depersonalize with someone else and understand you're having a conversation with someone through walls of text, right? You don't see that as much as you would, you know, when you're face to face or even in a call with them. So, and also when you're in a call, a lot of the small stuff starts going away, and it really, you realize how little it really matters. So that's the entire reason for doing this. I just wanted to get it out of the way so it wouldn't be drawn out, and so that we can have a definitive conclusion. This is it. We're done. Yeah. So if you want to look at this argument, just go towards this.
Done here. I don't know if Motion Movies has something else to
Yeah,
say.
he's back. He's back.
Inferno, where are you from in England?
Where?